abandon the breakfast routine your doctor prescribed back in 1985. If you're over 60 and your mornings still begin with toast, cereal, orange juice, or even what you consider a wholesome bowl of oatmeal, I need you to lean in and listen carefully over the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share with you could be the deciding factor between starting your day feeling vibrant and stable versus waking up unsteady, mentally clouded, and battling a blood sugar avalanche before you've even left your bedroom. My name is Dr. Jason Fung. For more than 20 years, I've been working alongside patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, guiding them to take charge of their blood sugar without feeling like their entire day revolves around a glucose monitor. And I want to open with something that genuinely caught me off guard a few years ago. A study tracking over 600 adults aged 60 and above revealed that the sequence and makeup of your very first meal could alter post-meal blood sugar surges by as much as 40%, simply by adjusting what you eat first, not the portion size, not slashing calories, not eliminating carbs completely, just the order and the combination. 40%. That is not a rounding error. That is the distinction between a blood sugar result that earns your doctor's approving nod and one that prompts them to reach for a prescription. And here's the part that really grabbed my attention. The item that claims the top spot on today's lineup, the most potent blood sugar stabilizing breakfast approach I know, isn't some rare exotic superfood you've never heard of. It's something already sitting in your kitchen that almost everyone eats in exactly the wrong way. I'll guide you through it at the very end, and I assure you, once you grasp why it's so effective, you'll never prepare breakfast the same way again. But before we jump in, I want to pose a question because I genuinely read every single comment on these videos. Everyone, share your age and tell me this. What does your typical breakfast look like right now? Toast and coffee, cereal, or have you already begun testing out some of these approaches? I'm truly curious because it influences what I cover in upcoming videos. And honestly, connecting with you is one of the most fulfilling aspects of this work. Now, let's dive in. I'm going to guide you through 5 breakfast strategies ranked from beneficial to absolutely transformative that can help reduce and stabilize your blood sugar starting tomorrow morning. We're counting down from 5 to 1. So stick with me because the ones near the top are the ones almost nobody discusses. Let's begin with the 5th strategy. This involves centering your breakfast around a base of fermented protein-packed dairy. Think plain Greek yogurt or kefir rather than leading with something starchy. Researchers examining glycemic responses in older adults have found that a portion of fermented dairy containing at least 15 to 20 grams of protein consumed before any carbohydrate hits your plate can dampen the resulting blood sugar elevation by a notable margin. In certain observed groups, that reduction was approximately 20 to 25% compared to eating carbohydrates by themselves. Here's why this becomes so critical after 60, unlike when you were 30. As we age, our muscles develop what's known as anabolic resistance, which essentially means your body becomes less adept at utilizing protein to preserve and repair muscle tissue, even when you're eating the identical amount you always have. Weaker, less responsive muscle tissue is also less capable of extracting glucose or sugar from your bloodstream following a meal because muscle serves as one of your body's primary sugar storage depots. Picture your muscles as a warehouse equipped with loading bays. In your 30s, those bays are fully operational and trucks unload sugar rapidly. After 60, some of those bays start to seize up. Delivering concentrated protein to your body first thing in the morning helps pry those doors back open. For preparation, target a half cup to a full cup of plain Greek yogurt or a cup of kefir, unsweetened, first thing in the morning, ideally within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. The complementary tip here is to mix in a tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chia seeds because the extra fiber delays gastric emptying, meaning your stomach releases food into your intestines more slowly, which further smoothens that blood sugar trajectory. I think of Margaret, 68, from a small town outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. She had been navigating prediabetes for 3 years and confided that her morning cereal habit felt impossible to break until she experimented with swapping it for yogurt with flax 3 mornings per week. Within 6 weeks, her fasting glucose levels had decreased enough that her physician remarked on it during her next appointment. And she mentioned that the most unexpected benefit was that she no longer felt ravenous by 10 in the morning like she used to. Moving on to the fourth strategy, this is something I call the vinegar window. Specifically, 1 to 2 tablespoons of diluted apple cider vinegar consumed 15 to 20 minutes ahead of your meal. This isn't old wives' tale territory. There's genuine science behind it. Research investigating acetic acid, the primary active component in vinegar, has demonstrated that it can impede the activity of certain digestive enzymes responsible for converting starches into simple sugars. And studies involving adults with insulin resistance have documented post-meal blood sugar reductions ranging from 20 to 34% when vinegar was ingested shortly before a carbohydrate-heavy meal. Why does this become more relevant as we age? Because after roughly 65, many individuals experience a natural dip in insulin sensitivity, meaning the same quantity of insulin accomplishes less in transporting sugar out of the bloodstream and into cells than it once did. Decelerating how quickly sugar even enters the bloodstream gives your body's insulin a better chance to keep pace rather than becoming swamped. Visualize your insulin as a modest maintenance team trying to manage sugar arriving on a conveyor belt. Vinegar essentially slows the conveyor belt so the team isn't overwhelmed. For preparation, combine 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar into a full glass of water and sip it gradually about 15 to 20 minutes before you eat. Never consume it straight, as the acidity can be abrasive on your throat and tooth enamel over time. The complementary tip is to follow your vinegar water with a small handful of walnuts or almonds, because the beneficial fats further decelerate digestion and have been linked to improved insulin response in older adults. This is a good moment to pause. If this information strikes you as fresh and valuable, and I hope it does, please take 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel connect with more individuals like you, people who are striving to take genuine command of their health without depending on escalating medication. It costs you nothing, and it means everything to this channel. Now, let's push forward, because the next 3 items are where things become genuinely compelling. The third strategy is protein first eating order. And this one catches almost everyone off guard when I explain it. This differs from item 5 because it's not about what you consume. It's about the sequence in which you consume it, even within the same meal. A pivotal body of research on meal sequencing discovered that when identical foods were eaten in a different arrangement, protein and vegetables first, starchy carbohydrates last, post-meal blood sugar spikes fell by as much as 30 to 40%, and insulin demand decreased right alongside it, despite the total meal remaining unchanged. Same eggs, same toast, same fruit, just consumed in a different order. Why does sequencing carry so much weight for older bodies specifically? It boils down to something called gastric emptying rate, which is how quickly food exits your stomach and enters your small intestine, where sugar is actually absorbed into the blood. Protein and fiber-rich foods slow that emptying process. So when they're eaten first, they create a sort of buffer, gently lining the digestive tract and slowing the arrival of any sugar that follows. Think of it like placing a slow-moving lead vehicle onto the highway ahead of a fast car. It naturally regulates the speed of everything behind it. For practical application, this couldn't be simpler. If your breakfast consists of eggs, a piece of fruit, and toast, eat the eggs first, then the fruit, and save the toast for last, even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes apart. The complementary tip is to add a source of healthy fat, like a few slices of avocado, to whatever you eat first, because fat further delays gastric emptying and has been proven to amplify the overall effect. I want to share Harold's story with you, 74, from a suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona. Harold had been teetering on the edge of a type 2 diabetes diagnosis for over a year. He didn't want to alter what he ate. He adored his eggs and toast. So instead, we simply rearranged the order. Eggs first, fruit second, toast last every single morning. At his 3-month checkup, his A1C, which is a blood test measuring your average blood sugar over approximately 3 months, had improved sufficiently that his doctor postponed his diagnosis discussion entirely. Same food, different sequence. That's the power of this approach. The second strategy, and this is one very few people address, is what I call strategic breakfast delay, occasionally described as a compressed eating window. This does not mean eliminating breakfast altogether. And I want to emphasize that clearly because for many older adults, skipping meals can actually backfire and provoke worse blood sugar fluctuations later in the day. What I'm referring to is simply postponing your first meal by 60 to 90 minutes later than your current time, extending your overnight fasting period before your body has to handle any incoming sugar. Research monitoring metabolic markers in adults who stretched their overnight fast to 12 to 14 hours found improvements in fasting insulin sensitivity of up to 20% within just a few weeks without any other dietary modifications whatsoever. Here's the aging specific element that makes this so crucial. Mitochondria, which are the tiny structures inside your cells responsible for converting food into usable energy, naturally become less efficient with age, occasionally losing up to 30% of their function by your 70s. Less efficient mitochondria struggle more to process sugar quickly, especially early in the morning when cortisol, your natural wake-up hormone, is already elevated and independently driving blood sugar upward. Granting your body a slightly longer overnight window before that first bite gives your mitochondria additional time to catch up and clear residual sugar from the previous night. So you're not piling a fresh sugar load on top of one that hasn't been cleared yet. Think of it like giving a sluggish dishwasher an extra cycle to finish before you load in more dirty dishes. For practical application, if you currently eat breakfast at 7 in the morning, try shifting it to 8:15 or 8:30 and utilize that extra time for a brief walk, some water or your morning coffee, black or with a splash of milk, but nothing sweet. The complimentary tip is to couple this delayed breakfast with a short 10-minute walk beforehand because light movement further enhances how efficiently your muscles absorb glucose once you do eat. Which brings us to the number one strategy, the most potent approach on this entire list, and the one I promise to circle back to. It's not a supplement, it's not an exotic ingredient. It's fiber first eating, specifically ingesting a substantial dose of soluble fiber as the very first thing you consume in the morning before anything else touches your plate. I'm referring to something like a tablespoon and a half of psyllium husk stirred into water, or a generous portion of chia seeds soaked overnight, or even a large serving of cooked oat bran eaten entirely on its own before any other food. A study examining soluble fiber intake timing in adults over 65 discovered that consuming 10 to 15 grams of soluble fiber immediately before a mixed meal reduced the resulting blood sugar spike by as much as 45 to 50%. It's the single largest effect size of any single intervention researchers evaluated. Why does this work so dramatically, and why especially for aging bodies? Soluble fiber absorbs water and forms a dense gel-like substance in your digestive tract. This gel physically impedes the movement of sugar molecules toward the intestinal wall, where they'd otherwise be absorbed rapidly into your bloodstream. As we age, and particularly after 70, the intestinal lining itself becomes more permeable, and sugar absorption can actually become quicker and less controlled than it was in your younger years, a lesser known dimension of the aging gut. That thick fiber gel acts almost like a physical barrier, or think of it like pouring water through a saturated sponge instead of directly into an open pipe. It dramatically decelerates how quickly everything passes through. For preparation, stir 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of psyllium husk powder into a full glass of water. Drink it immediately since it thickens quickly, and wait 5 to 10 minutes before eating the rest of your meal. If psyllium isn't accessible to you, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds soaked in water or milk overnight works beautifully as well. The complementary tip, and this is crucial, is to follow your fiber with a source of protein rather than pure carbohydrate, because the combination of fiber's slowing effect and protein's blunting effect together produce the strongest results researchers observed, far more powerful than either one by itself. I think about Dolores 71 from a quiet neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina. She had battled morning blood sugar spikes for years, despite eating what she considered a wholesome breakfast. When she incorporated psyllium fiber before her meal, followed by eggs within a month, her morning readings had leveled out so reliably that she told me it was the first time in a decade breakfast didn't feel like a roll of the dice. Here's what I want you to carry away from all of this. Managing your blood sugar as you get older isn't about abandoning the foods you enjoy or living in dread of every meal or feeling like your body has turned against you. It's about recognizing that your body still functions. It just requires a bit more attentiveness, a bit more strategy than it once did. Every single person I've described today implemented a small adjustment, not a complete transformation, and reclaimed their freedom. The capacity to travel without fretting about glucose crashes, the vitality to keep pace with grandchildren, the assurance to walk into a doctor's appointment without fearing the number on the display. That's what this is truly about. Not flawless digits on a chart, but a life that still belongs to you. And I want you to hear me clearly. It is never too late to make this adjustment. Not at 65, not at 75, not at 85. Your body is still receptive and it still responds, sometimes more quickly than you'd anticipate. If this video benefited you even slightly, please subscribe so you don't miss what I cover next, and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people discover this information. And I'd love to know in the comments below, which one of these 5 are you going to try first thing tomorrow morning? I read every single comment, so tell me. And I'll see you in the next one.